If you want to build an AI business, learning how to get customers is the most important skill. It doesn't matter how good your AI automation skills are or how amazing your product is. If you can't reach your customers, it doesn't matter. So in this video, I'll break down the best 3 channels to get your first 3 clients in less than 30 days and show you the best 3 channels to scale your AI business to 10K a month and beyond. If you don't know me yet, I'm Ben. I use these strategies to grow my own AI business to over $1 million in annual revenue. And I also run a community where I try to help other people start their AI business. And these strategies have helped dozens of my members get to their first 5 to 10K and beyond. So as I said, learning how to get customers is arguably the most important skill when building any business. It's why 95% of failed businesses fail. And besides that, it's only going to get more important in the AI era. It's arguably harder than building your offer, your service, your skill, or your product, right? I ran a venture-backed startup for 5 years, which went bankrupt. And the number one reason was because we had too much focus on product and too little focus on acquisition. We ended up with an amazing product that we couldn't put in front of our target audience. And it's a very common trap for first-time founders, right? A very common saying is first-time founders go product first or business first or service first, right? And second-time founders go marketing or distribution first. And this is exactly what I did now, right? I went marketing first with my YouTube channel, and this now allowed me to build multiple AI businesses. The distribution enabled me to build all of these businesses, not the other way around. Now, I'm not saying that building a personal brand is the only way. I'm going to cover that in this video. But what I'm saying is that you have to become a master at acquisition to build out a good business. And with AI democratizing technical skills and product building, this becomes even more important, right? As more and more people will be able to build products and have these technical skills, you'll have more competition, meaning the ones who will win are the ones who can best reach their target audience. So now, before even talking about the channels, it's important to talk about niching down. Depending on where you're at, different channels make sense. Now, this is a common struggle for many people when they're starting out, but it is something critical for you to be able to grow your business. Now, when you're just starting out, you don't have to have this 100% clear yet, right? This is an evolving thing, and it's a little bit of a process, right? I've been in AI now for 2 years, and I'm still not 100% clear on my positioning, right? Most startups pivot 7 times before they get successful. So again, you don't have to get this right from the get-go. But a general rule of thumb you can keep in mind is that the broader your positioning is, the less it converts. So if your offer is, I do AI automation, you're speaking to a very large audience and you're not talking to a specific pain point. So many of the people you're talking to do not resonate with your offer. So the easiest way to improve your positioning is to call out a clear industry. For example, I do AI automations for marketing agencies. And the strongest positioning, of course, is to solve one specific problem for one specific industry. For example, I help marketing agencies automate SEO service delivery with AI. Now, many people, when they get into AI, they learn AI automation. They might not know exactly which industry or niche to call out yet, or a specific pain point or solution yet. Now, that's perfectly fine. You're in phase 1, what I call phase 1. And this is perfectly fine to start with, right? When you don't have specific domain expertise in a specific industry, and it's really also an advantage we have right now with AI and automation, is that even though we come with a very broad offer, like I help businesses with AI automation, we can still get our first clients without even having picked a niche, because there's a lot of FOMO in the market right now. Most business owners and people know they have to do something with AI. So even with a very broad offer, you could still get clients. But ideally, eventually you move into phase 2, where you really start to call out a specific niche or a specific target audience. Now, how do you pick a specific audience or niche, right? If you have specific domain expertise in a niche already, then this should be a quite obvious choice for you. For example, most of my experience had been in the tech industry, so my initial niche was tech companies. Although still broad, it was my initial niche. So I was basically doing any type of automation or AI solution for businesses in the tech industry. Now, of course, if your specific industry expertise is not very relevant for AI automation, this might not always apply to you. For example, if you have highly regulated industries, maybe offline work or very large corporations, then it might not make perfect sense to you. But if you don't know where to start yet, you don't have specific domain expertise in an industry, one niche I always recommend to at least explore initially is the digital service agency space. Now, why is that? Because this is a gigantic $3 trillion market that is ready to be disrupted with AI, right? As the word says itself, service businesses rely on human labor to drive value. And because AI is the first technology that can actually automate work, automation can completely transform these businesses. Because even if you can increase their margins by 5% by automating some of their delivery processes, you're making a huge impact in their business. Think digital marketing agencies, lead gen agencies, recruiting agencies, but also in the legacy business world, right? Law firms who need legal admin, real estate, accounting, healthcare admin, HR and payroll admin. Again, this market, this service industry is going to be forced to adopt these solutions in the upcoming years to stay relevant and competitive in the marketplace. But again, you don't have to get this right on the first try. You can switch between niches too. You can change them later, and you most likely will. And then in phase three, you have a clear problem you solve with one solution for one specific target audience. And this is where you move into a more and more productized offer and where you can really start scaling your business. For example, what we do at the moment is we help marketing agencies automate SEO service delivery with an AI system. So how do you find a good offer? Generally, there are really only four things you can help businesses with. The first one is save time. Second is making money. The third one is saving money. And the fourth one is reducing errors or risk. Now, the strongest offer in general tend to be the ones where you can make businesses money, right? For example, driving new pipeline, new revenue, new leads, etc. Because businesses are most likely to pay you for these kinds of services because there's a clear ROI. And this is again why I believe targeting the digital marketing or lead generation service industry is a very interesting approach if you don't know which audience to target yet, because marketing agencies are specialized in generating pipeline leads and revenue and money to a business. While you're working with these businesses, you will be building up your own specific domain expertise on how to help businesses make money, right? And then if you combine that with your AI automation skills, you could eventually get to a very strong offer. Now, again, this type of positioning, right, this very niche positioning is most likely not where you want to start unless you already have very specific domain expertise on how to solve a high ROI problem for a specific industry already. For example, if you've been an SEO expert for e-commerce businesses before. So what acquisition channel should you choose? So the way you can look at acquisition channels, broadly speaking, and I'm generalizing a little bit here, but I want to make this practical, is in two ways, right? We have short-term acquisition channels and we have long-term acquisition channels. Now, the short-term acquisition channels, these are not very scalable channels and are not going to be your acquisition channel for the long run when you're building out your business. But they are really good and great to get your first experience and to get your first customers fast. Then the long-term acquisition channels, which generally take a lot longer to get results out of, are the ones that will actually allow you to build a consistent lead flow to really grow a business into a healthy, sustainable business. Now, when you're first learning the skill of AI automation and trying to build a business, right, whatever niche phase you're in, right, your goal for acquisition is not yet building a business, right? It's about learning. You have to learn how to sit on these sales calls. You have to learn how to scope and deliver client projects. You have to discover high ROI use cases for clients. You have to discover interesting niches in your positioning. So it's not about making money. Now, of course, there are lots of different channels and ways to get clients out there, but I want to make this video very practical. So I'm going to break down the three channels I recommend both for short-term and long-term that I've seen working best for people in my community, people in the AI space, and for myself. So the first one for the short-term acquisition channel, which I've seen honestly work best for most people to get their first one or two clients in, is your network, right? Start with your close network, friends, family, businesses or business owners, businesses you've worked with before, former colleagues. You can literally just reach out to them, say you now do this, you do AI automation, offer to have a conversation with them on how AI can help them in their business, maybe offer a free AI audit. It's generally easy to get them on a call because they already know you. It's a low risk environment for you. So you can have your first conversations at ease and build without any repercussions if you make any mistakes, right? You can do these projects also for free because again, your goal is not about making money or building a business. It's about learning in this stage. And this is exactly what I did when I just started. I reached out to my network of some business owners I knew and friends and offered them free projects. And if I look back, it's really what kickstarted this whole journey for me, right? It's really, you can't look at it as wasted time process, right? And those first few projects for me really got the ball rolling in my journey. And the best way to approach this is to just think of your own network. Think of anyone in your network who has a business, or is working in a business that you might be able to help, right? Reach out to them and say you can do AI automation. Offer to sit on a call, talk about their problems, and see if you can identify something you can help them with using AI automation. The whole world knows they have to do something with AI and feel like they're behind. So generally, you get quite good positive responses when you do this. And this, again, also for my community, has been by far the best way to get their first project and experience in. For example, Jair, a member of my community, was a university student in Amsterdam who started telling everyone he knew that he was doing AI automation. And within weeks, he landed a paid project with a mid-sized business, someone from his network who'd been thinking about AI but didn't know where to start. Right? He ran a free discovery call, showed them what was possible, then pitched a retainer. And now, only 2 months later, I think, AI is really part of their business strategy in this company. He's got steady monthly revenue, focused on perfecting his skills, right? His automation skills, or preparing a perfect sales pitch. He just started a conversation about AI with people he already knew. And the same is the case for Mehdi. We have many other examples who got their first projects through their network. Right now, the second obvious one to find your first clients fast is AI communities. There are dozens of these AI communities out there right now, and most of them have lots of business owners in there that don't have time to build out things themselves. They already know what AI automation could potentially do, and clearly they have bought in on AI already because they're in this community. So we have lots of these school communities, of course. We have circle communities where my own community is. We have Facebook groups. We have Discord channels. And by the way, these are not only AI communities. If you already have a niche, you can also go for communities around your specific niche. For example, if you target lawyers, go for Facebook groups where a lot of lawyers are. But there are really two ways to get leads out of these communities. Is first of all, is by being active and helping people out, right? Helping people solve their tech issues, their problems will get you noticed, and some business owners might reach out. And the second, of course, is to actively promote your services in these communities. Generally, they have some partnership channel or hiring channel. You can just post your services in those channels, maybe offer a free audit, and you'll see that you can get your first projects quite quick like this. Again, if you haven't done a project yet, remember your goal is learning. So highly recommend, if you want to get this fast, is offer it for free. It's almost a guaranteed way to get your first project in. For example, Aditya, also a member of my community, he's a 16-year-old who offered free services to businesses in my community, got his first 3 projects in, and which eventually, almost all of them, led into paid projects. Now, the third short-term acquisition channel I recommend is Upwork or freelancing platforms like Fiverr. Now, Upwork and Fiverr are great to get that initial experience, but also to get a first paid client and talking to cold audience, right? With Upwork and Fiverr, you're talking to strangers who might not be in AI. You have to sit on sales calls. Sometimes you have to professionally deliver these services, and all of these things will really teach you how this will be when you're running the actual business, right? So the key things with Upwork are, first of all, just you have to make a good professional profile. You need a video. You need to work on this consistently. Then second, Upwork is really about consistency. You have to reserve a space in your calendar, probably an hour, 2 hours a day, and just apply to all the possible projects you can help people out with, and eventually you will lead one, right? For example, Nicola joined my community in January 2025. He spent a few months learning all the tutorials on building and practicing workflows, but in May he decided he needs to get on to actually finding clients and started being really consistent on Upwork. And the result after a few weeks was 3 potential $2,000 a month retainers. Now, 2 of them didn't actually close, but he learned why they didn't close, and those failed projects or failed sales calls taught him more than watching more building tutorials, and allowed him to close the third one with a retainer. Also, Joshua, as you can see, got his first client by just being helpful and active in my community, for example. But there are many other examples of this. But when you are starting to get clear on your niche, your targeting, and you have gotten in some experience and really want to start building your business and start making some money, right? You will most likely need some other acquisition channels. Now, why is that? First of all, because the channels that I mentioned here, the short-term acquisition channels, generally will have a very broad range of clients and projects, right? So if you've niched down, it's going to be harder to find your specific client in these platforms. Secondly, on Upwork and in communities, you'll be competing with lots of other builders and people offering basically the same services as you. So the price is going to be determined more by the market, not necessarily by the value you can offer to these companies. And that's why after those first projects and clients, I recommend generally you need to go after some of the long-term acquisition channels to build a sustainable and scalable business in the long run. Now, there are exceptions, of course, but freelance marketplaces just tend to be a little bit of a race to the bottom, and it's harder to niche down and grow your business. Now, what do I mean with long-term sustainable acquisition channels? It's a channel that will allow you to reach your customers consistently and scalably, and a channel you can eventually scale without that much more input or effort. And if you actually want to build and grow a scalable business, then you probably have to get good at one of these channels. Now, before even talking about the channels, there's three things I want to cover very quickly. First of all, building any of these long-term acquisition channels generally takes time, right? Nailing an acquisition channel is hard, extremely hard. It's extremely competitive. And for you to be successful in these channels, you generally need to be in the top 5% experts of these channels. And the common mistake I see is people trying to attack 5 channels at the same time. Don't do that. Focus on one and get really good at it, right? Become a master at it. And one line that stuck with me from Y Combinator is that most unicorns, $1 billion valuation companies, grow to become a unicorn actually through one main acquisition channel, not by 5 average ones. Secondly, because generally it takes time to get a consistent lead flow out of these types of channels, I generally recommend that even if you're in phase 1, so you're just starting out and you haven't figured out your niche, at least start learning the skill and start building out one of these channels from day one. Lastly, a good rule of thumb to keep in mind is that generally the more comfortable the acquisition channel, the more competition you'll have, the more crowded it is, and the least conversions you'll see. And the more uncomfortable it is, the less people will do it, the easier you can stand out. For example, 99% of people will never show their face on social media, meaning the ones that will stand out, right? 99% of people will never cold call a list of prospects, but instead send them an email. But again, the ones who do will stand out. I personally believe you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable in order to be successful in building a business. I can tell you, for myself, putting my first YouTube videos out was extremely uncomfortable. I had huge imposter syndrome, a feeling of cringe every time I hit the publish button. But if you do it often enough, it doesn't become uncomfortable anymore. Now, again, there are many different acquisition channels, but I'll again cover the 3 that I've seen work best for me and people in AI and my community members when building one of these long-term acquisition channels. So the first one is building a personal brand. Now, again, this is the uncomfortable channel for most people, but remember, the more uncomfortable, the more effective. The huge opportunity I think we have right now in AI is that the whole world knows they need to do something with AI. Every business feels like they're behind and is trying to wrap their head around how to actually implement this in their business. And the people who put their face out there and share their learnings and solutions get a lot of traction at the moment, even with low views or low engagement. That's why many people have been able to skip past all these short-term acquisition channels by just putting out content from day one. Now, the platforms I generally recommend doing this on is, first of all, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great way to start with. Why? Because your post will be shown to your network. And you showing your network, you know things about AI and automation, very often results in your network reaching out to you because they know they have to do something with AI, right? But you can also, of course, reach cold audiences with LinkedIn. Another one, of course, is YouTube. But keep in mind that in YouTube, you won't be shown to warm audiences yet, to your network. You don't have one yet. So YouTube generally might take a little bit longer to get traction, but of course can become potentially a lot more powerful over time because also it is more uncomfortable and less people do it, right? Currently, the algorithm of YouTube is actually promoting and pushing content of smaller creators by a lot. So it's a big upside if you're just starting it right now. And if you don't know what content to post on, a really easy framework to think about this is, first of all, post everything you learn on a day-to-day basis. Any insight you have while building out solutions, while learning AI automation, make a post out of it. Why? Because almost every insight you have will most likely already be one step ahead of the people in your network and 99% of the world. Now, many people have imposter syndrome, especially when they start, right? They think, who am I to share insights on this topic? I had the same. But remember, even after learning the basics of AI and automation, you watching this video, you're already ahead of 99% of the world and have insights that are valuable to people on the internet and your network, right? Even if you don't think so. And you don't have to be in the top 1% experts or compare yourself to the big creators. You just have to be one step ahead of your target audience. It's actually an advantage because if you're too far ahead of your target audience, you don't relate to them anymore. And one that works really well too is share all the solutions you're building for clients on social media. This is the approach I took when I just started and got me loads of leads in because I made businesses aware of problems they can now fix with AI. Again, this doesn't have to be a perfect build or a huge automation. Small solution demos work well too. if you already identified a specific niche, you really want to double down on showing specific solutions for that niche. And personal stories always work well too, because being vulnerable conveys trust, right? That's why personal brands work so well, especially for conversions and acquisition, because trust is already there, right? Another one I would add here for is any new AI tool or API or thing that come out, post some content on it, because it can really get you maybe that first viral post. Now, some things I want you to keep in mind when approach building a personal brand, because I know it can be a little bit uncomfortable, especially when you get started. First of all, you don't need thousands of views in order to see results, right? I saw my first leads coming in with a video that had, I think, 200 views. Second, you don't need highly polished, perfect videos or content, right? In the early stages, volume beats quality every time. It's far better to put out 10 really bad videos than one perfect one, right? Again, the first video I posted was so cringeworthy that I actually deleted it from my channel. And lastly, keep in mind the algorithms right now, especially on YouTube, are so good that even if you're a small creator with 0 subscribers or followers, as long as you provide value for your target audience, your content will be pushed to that specific audience. And lastly, what I think a very common reason why people don't put their face out there is because deep down they are ashamed, or they're worried about what people in their network might think about them. It was the same for me when I just got started. But trust me, nobody that actually knows me, even after now hitting 100,000 subscribers, actually watches my video. So just remember that nobody cares. And this building a personal brand is, in my opinion, the best strategy. Also, if you have identified a specific niche, because you can now create content for your specific niche audience and help them out with all kinds of problems for your specific industry with AI. And even if you're not sure yet and you don't have a specific niche yet, just by showing your learnings and interesting things on AI, you can really get your first clients like that. So highly recommend building a personal brand from day one. An example of this approach is Masai, also a member of my community, who went from a professional soccer player to AI automation engineer, specifically targeting law firms and lawyers. So he started posting legal automations on LinkedIn and YouTube. So not generic AI content, but specific solutions for solo attorneys and small law firms. So he didn't chase views. He focused entirely on his ICP. He also went into Facebook groups specifically for lawyers, did webinars with lawyers, and now literally after a few months, he's overloaded with leads and is now working on a more productized solution for lawyers. So the key here really is to consistently put out content for that ICP, right? And every post, video, and demo speaks directly to that target audience. And you can see Masai, he doesn't have thousands of views or 100,000 subscribers, but even with a few hundred views, he's overloaded with leads. Now, the second scalable acquisition channel you can try is cold outreach. Now, you can do cold outreach, of course, through different platforms, email, LinkedIn, DMs on X or Instagram. And this, I think, makes most sense when you're also clear on the specific solution or pain point you're solving for your specific industry. So when I talk about the niching, more in phase 3, because this becomes very hard when you're in phase 1, a little bit easier when you're in phase 2 because you already know who to target, but becomes a lot better when you're in phase 3, right? Because you know who to target and you know exactly which pain point and solution to offer. Now, first, what you want to think about when doing cold outreach is, where does my target audience hang out, right? If it's fitness coaches, Instagram might be a better option. If it's SaaS CEOs, LinkedIn might be a better one. And generally, email is the broadest one because everyone has email. Now, the important thing in cold outreach is you have to find audience message fit. Now, first of all, of course, you have to be clear on your target, but then you have to get audience message fit. Now, what does that mean? You have to find the right messaging to capture their attention. And generally, the best way to get that is by calling out a specific pain point for your target audience and a specific solution that can resolve that pain point. Therefore, this generally, again, works a little bit better when you're clear on your niche and the solution you offer in phase 3. It can still work if you're in phase 2, especially with AI, but generally, again, works better when you're phase 3. Now, it takes time to figure out good audience message fit. It also takes time to find the right targeting, and you need to get good at this. So this is not going to work from day one, right, in general. Also, these channels generally require to put some investment in order for you to do the outreach. Now, Florian is another example from my community who took this approach, specifically targeting car dealerships for AI automation. He launched a small cold email campaign to 486 car dealerships. His hook was showing them exactly how much time they could be saving with a lead qualification solution. And after 2 weeks, he had 10.5% reply rates and 8 qualified opportunities and meetings. And he closed some clients from it. And it worked because he was very clear on the pain point he could resolve for a specific target audience. And generally 486 emails is nothing, right? You can scale this up to way higher numbers. Now, the third one is paid ads, which is actually very similar to cold outreach, because if you think about it, we're basically doing the same thing, right? Instead of landing in their inbox or whatever platform it is, we appear on their feed on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And because we're in a feed, we are competing with millions of other posts, and it's even harder to capture attention and stand out than with cold outreach. So finding perfect audience message fit here becomes even more important, right? There are many platforms, of course, we can advertise on, and the same applies here. You want to think, where does your target audience hang out? That's how you can choose your ad platform. And then again, you want to call out specific pain points for your specific target audience and test it out until you get good results. Generally, if your audience is there, I generally recommend going with meta ads on either Instagram or Facebook, because if you can good at it, it can become one of the most cost efficient ways to get leads. Most target audiences hang out on those platforms. LinkedIn ads can get a lot more expensive very quickly. Google ads is very hard to stand out from the crowd and from competitors. It becomes more of a bidding game than being able to stand out by the quality of your ad or the skill of ad creatives, because we only have text we can work with. Now, with paid ads, you have to be very clear on the lifetime value, meaning how much money you make on average on one customer. So you need this in order for you to be able to calculate how much you can spend on acquiring one new customer. And this will basically define what success looks like for your ad campaigns. And this is why, again, this makes a lot more sense when you're a bit further in your journey and probably really have a niched offer where you either have it productized or niched down so much that you know what deal size you can expect out of one client. Also, keep in mind that it generally takes time to find the right audience message fit, the right targeting. So there needs to be an upfront investment for you to be able to test and optimize your ads. That being said, if you can make paid ads work, it can be an extremely scalable acquisition channel, even more so than a personal brand, right? Because if you have a very specific offer and target audience, you can now target the right people at scale really fast, which will be a lot harder with organic content. Now, this is the exact approach I followed, right? When I wasn't sure about my niche yet, I got my first clients and projects through my network. When I was clear on the industry I was going to target, I went into phase 2. I started a personal brand that resulted in me getting more experience in that industry, niching down into an industry even further, and eventually niching down into a specific offer where we offer an AI SEO solution for marketing agency. Now, once we got to that offer, that's where we really went for the scaling path. And that's where we started paid ads and cold outreach, because we knew exactly what pain points to call out and which target audience to call out, which is generally the best way to get the best results out of these cold outreach strategies. And those channels then really allow you to scale. So what should you do today? If you're in phase 1, you don't have any client experience yet, right? And you don't have a specific niche yet, start with the short-term acquisition channels. The highest leverage activity you can focus on today is getting clients. You want to adjust, first of all, your LinkedIn, make clear what you do. You haven't picked a niche here yet, so don't worry, but just say and make sure you communicate that you do AI automations. It's not rocket science, really simple. You can get your first meetings by offering free audits or a free initial build. Now, the way I like to think about it, 2 of these 4 here are really daily non-negotiables, right? So at least pick probably content and one of these other channels and be consistent on them, right? So if you're going for the network approach, reach out to at least 3 people in your close network per week. If you're doing AI communities or communities in general, spend 1 hour a day in these communities, simply posting and commenting and helping people, maybe posting some of your services in the hiring channels or the partnering channels, right? If you're doing Upwork, 5 applications per day. And while you're working all of these, make sure to get consistent on slowly building your personal brand, right? Generally, a good rule of thumb to keep in mind when you're just starting, 3 posts per week on LinkedIn or 1 YouTube video a week. Again, don't over-optimize it, volume over quality. Don't try to learn everything you can on N8N or AI automation before doing this, right? Most of the learnings you're going to get while actually building for clients, right? So don't worry about learning everything. If you know the basics, you have enough to get started. Now, if you don't have any client experience yet, but you're already sure on your niche, still follow the same recommendation as I just gave you. You need to get client experience and project experience. But once you have, you want to go and focus more on the long-term scalable acquisition channels, right? Again, pick one and get really good at it and stay consistent. The one I recommend most, again, is content, 3 posts per week on LinkedIn or 1 on YouTube, helping your specific target audience with their specific problem. If you're working with clients already, this is still one of the highest leverage activities you can do to actually build a long-term sustainable business. So make sure you keep the time in your schedule for you to be consistent on this, right? And if you already know what specific problem or solution you're going to offer to a specific niche, you can then really start scaling your acquisition by trying cold outreach, cold email, or paid ads, right? Again, pick one, stick to it for 3 months at least, experiment, get good at it, invest some money in it, and take conclusions after 3 months, and then you change. Most people quit too early, but it just takes time to get good at these channels. Lastly, I just want to double down on the point that I made all the way at the beginning. I literally lost 5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars, not my money, fortunately, but building a product that not enough people actually saw, right? So don't make my mistake. And the difference between my failed startup and my current business is really that, right? I went marketing or distribution first, right? I built this YouTube channel before I built any business or product. And that distribution enabled me to build multiple businesses. So in 90 days, there will really be two types of people who've watched this video: those who started building acquisition channels and now have customers, and those who are still perfecting their product or automation skills in isolation. So really recommend to go distribution first and start this today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more on how to build and scale an AI business, you can check out the video here above. Thank you so much.